Right, so now you're ready to do your pre-taxi briefing list. So let's say we're at Bay Bridge Airport, right? We would take a look, we'd have the airport diagram. In this case, we don't have one because there isn't one, but we do know the runway is 2810 or whatever it is. And, you know, the wind direction, it looks like it's going to be favoring runway 28, or if we have the ATIS information available. I don't believe Bay Bridge has one.
Okay.
So release the brakes, and as we start to taxi,
do a quick little test.
Yeah, a little test of the brakes. There you go. That's perfect. And then the only other thing would be if it was really windy, you'd want to make sure that you have the controls positioned. So if the wind was quartering tailwind, you'd want to be that way, and if it was in front of you, you'd want to be this way.
You pull back, or is it
Neutral's probably
neutral?
fine.
Okay. And if
it's more of a matter if the wind's from the quartering tailwind from either side, you can tend to lift that wing up. So you push the wheel forward and you put the aileron down over here, so that way the wind hits it and holds the wing down.
Gotcha. So dive away from the wind.
Okay. Right. So you do a pre-startup checklist. We start the engine, then we do a pre-takeoff checklist. Pre-taxi. Then you go out to taxi, and now you're going to pull up and you're going to do your run-up. You're going to pull out onto the runway, do your 270, announcing that you're planning to do that.
Okay.
But before we pull onto the runway, we're going to do the takeoff brief. This is a new thing.
Okay.
I mean, the taxi pre-checklist briefing, I did all that stuff anyway. I probably didn't define it as a checklist, but, you know, we did that, for example, when we went to Lancaster, or we went to, you know, we did all the stuff that I said, except that it's nice to have the briefing down, and then that way you'll be happy with that.
Yep. Check, okay.
All right.
All right.
So we're the before takeoff checklist.
Parking brake is set.
We don't use the parking brake, we leave it off.
Okay. My feet are on the brakes anyway. Right. Cabin doors are closed and latched.
Right.
Flight control is free and correct. Over there. Free and correct.
Okay.
Light instruments set.
Make sure when you pull it back, you go all the way forward too.
Okay.
Have full range of control, movement. Right. Everything else you did that way.
Flight control or flight instruments are set. Fuel shutoff valve is on. Mixture is full rich. Elevator trim set to takeoff. Throttle up to 1700. Check magnetos.
Again, I think that tells me the mags are being grounded because I got a drop on both one. If you didn't get a drop on one, that could be a problem, right? Okay, heartbeat looks good. It's not on the mixture though, even though it's not. He'll like that. He likes that I check the mixture. Okay? Yep. Looks like we're charging. Looks like it's engine instruments look good.
Alright. Transponder set for alt. Flashing beacon's already on. Alright, so we've completed this. Flashing beacon on, strobe lights on. Then we go to the pre-takeoff brief.
Right. So it's down the bottom there.
Is this before we enter the runway, or?
Yes. So basically what we're going to say is that, you know, we're going to take off, and as we accelerate, if we get more than halfway down the runway and we haven't hit 40 or 45 knots, then we're probably not developing enough power, so we're going to abort the landing. If we rotate speed at 50, with the engine failure and we're near the runway, we land straight ahead.
Okay.
If we're on the runway, we hit the brakes. If we run past the runway, then you'll be responsible for the mixture and the master, and you'll ask him to pop the door.
Okay.
Okay. If we take off and we climb out and the engine quits below 500 feet straight ahead, try to land as best you can in a stall configuration. If you're above 500 feet, you might be able to turn within 45 degrees to find a better suitable landing.
Okay.
And if you want to turn back to the airport, you got to be at least 1,000.
1,000 AGL. Okay.
Right. That's all we're doing there. And if you know, just review that with them before you take off.
Okay.
All right.
So this brief is more for passengers and such than it is for.
And it's also to get you in the mindset of preparing. Says, why do you do that? Well, look, if I want to be completely ready in the event something bad happens. So I want to have a mental state ready for that. So if I get halfway down the runway and we're only doing 20 miles an hour, something's not right. We're going to abort the lane. We're not going to just keep trying.
I gotcha.
Okay, it's a mindset. It's a preparation kind of thing, more than it is. But it does tell the passenger, in this case, you're responsible for popping the door.
Okay.
Okay. So takeoff checklist now.
All right, and I'll do this when I'm on the runway already.
Right.
False traffic, Cessna 48753 is taxiing to runway 22, false. Is that helicopter's out of here now?
He said he was. I don't hear him. John will also like it that you'll pull onto the runway and do the 270.
Okay.
That's a very good conscientious thing. You're looking for traffic. If you did pull on and somebody was out there, you know, coming in on short final, you could pull off on the grass, or you could, if you had time, get back off out of the way.
All right, takeoff checklist. Fuel is on.
Right.
Flaps at 10 degrees. Mixture full rich. Takeoff trim. Oh, I mixed that one up. I should have done carb heat first.
Okay. No, carb heat cold for takeoff.
Oh, right. In. I should be reading instead of saying carb heat in for cold. Trim is set for takeoff. Landing light is turned on. And throttle from full.
Right.
False traffic, Cessna 753 is departing runway 22. False.
All right, let's go. All right, according to the brief, you know, to me it's the same thing. The power looks good, airspeed's alive. Those are similar things like, hey, we get to halfway down the runway and we haven't gotten to 40 knots or something, right? So we're above 40, we're not even to halfway to the runway, so we're gonna go. Rotated 50 and climb out at 65 to 70. Might be a little bumpy. Ooh, close to the ground. Get some right rudder in there. He's going to be looking for that on the climb out. There you go. And we're clear the obstacles, and we got a positive rate, so we can take the flaps up. There you go. So we're 700 feet above the ground. It seems like we ought to have enough altitude to get back to the airport, but trust me, we don't.
We don't, yeah.
He also talked a lot about downwind landings. He said, you know, people aren't, first of all, they hardly ever do them. So if they did one, they'd be surprised. Secondly, the amount of energy you have to dissipate is a function of the square of your velocity. So if you're coming in on downwind, the wind behind you, it's going to take a lot more runway than it normally would. Go ahead, turn left and climb out. Now, I've taught you we always land in the wind, right? We try not to land downwind. In an emergency, it's especially important to land into the wind, because you want to have the least amount of energy to dissipate, especially if you're going to land somewhere where there's obstacles in the way, like trees. Right? So if the engine quit, you'd want to have in your head, hey, the winds are out of the 270. I'd better fly heading at 270 as I'm coming in to make that emergency landing, or something close to that. He'll ask you about that definitely, and I think you just need to say, look, the slower we can go, the less energy we have to dissipate. If I come in and land downwind, my speed is going to be a lot faster than normal. If I normally land at 40, with a headwind, I've only got 30.
Yeah, right.
Now, I've got 50. So I've got, you know, significantly more, and the amount of energy I have to dissipate is equal to the square of the velocity. So it's even more dramatic. And the other thing is, you've never seen a downwind landing probably. Get some more right rudder in the climb. There you go. So you've never seen a downwind landing. You probably would surprise you how long the float goes, and your normal pictures, you'd end up landing long.
Yeah.
You know? And he's not going to ask you to do that, but he may ask you to
describe it.
Okay. Or explain why downwind landings are important or difficult. Now, I've done them in the Barren. I landed once with about a 15-knot tailwind.
Wow, on purpose?
Yeah, the instructor was out there. We were doing approaches, and he says, "Let's go." I straight. I said, "Well, we got about a 15-knot tailwind." He says, "I know. I want you to see it." All right, let's climb up to 2,500. We needed to have at least 1,500 feet AGL where we could finish our slow flight maneuver in order to meet the requirement. He'll probably tell you what altitude, but if he asks you, say, "Well, I got to be able to finish maneuver and still have 1,500 AGL over the eastern shore. Ground here is almost sea level, so I want to finish the maneuver at least 1,500. I want to have at least 2,500 before I do any slow flights or stalls.
Right.
That gives me 1,000 feet. He should like that. All right, you turn the landing light off. All right, before we do stalls or a slow flight, what do we do?
You got to do clearing turns.
Clearing turns. All right, so let's do a clearing turn. In order to qualify, it has to be a turn of 90 to the left and 90 to the right, or 180 degrees, but a total change in turn of 180 degrees. That's what they're looking for.
Okay. I'll go ahead and do a 90-degree turn to the left.
All right. We're looking for traffic. And the purpose of this is to clear the area. So we should be doing this vigilantly, looking for other traffic. And if you did a clearing turn and you saw traffic nearby, you might say, well, let's wait till he's out of the way. Or let's go somewhere where we're going to less likely interfere with other traffic.
Okay.
Part of the emphasis these days in all of the training and the certification standards is it's not just rote learning. They want you to understand the why. And that makes a lot of sense. So why do we do clearing turns? Because the book says you do them. Well, yeah, but we do clearing turns because we're trying to clear the area. We're trying to make sure there's no airplanes in the area that we could interfere with, because we're going to be operating in a mode where when we're installed, we may not have complete control of the airplane, right? Somebody comes start heading towards us and we're stalling.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So now the book says, under the new rule, to do slow flight, we have to slow the plane to a point where we hear the stall warner, and then relax the angle of attack and put some power in to get 2 or 3 knots above that, and then do your maneuvering at that speed. Used to be I would just pick a number like 45 and say let's use that. Okay. So let's go ahead and slow the plane down. We've done our clearing turn. We'll put carb heat in. At 1500. And when she starts to get flap speed, we start putting some flaps in. Give it some more. We're going to try to maintain our heading and our altitude. We're going to get it going slow until the stall warner comes on. Okay, and I told John there's a problem that sometimes the stall warner doesn't come on in this airplane. You know, don't get too high a pitch here. Just come back on the power a bit. Back on the power some. Get her slowed down. Let the nose drop a little bit. Yeah, get the nose down to picture about like that. Still not getting the stall warner, are we? Okay. I'm back on the power a little more.
I'm starting to hear it a little bit now.
Still don't hear it. Come back a little more. See if we can hear it. The original ACS, they wanted people to fly around with the stall warner going on, you know? Doesn't want to go, does it? No. Let's try to get a little bit slower. Here it is, okay. Here, okay, now push, give me a little power. And accelerate to about 40 or 41. Okay, get the nose down just a little bit more. Right there. A little more power. A little bit more power. Maybe about 1800 RPM. A little more power. Okay. Now, if you're a little bit faster, that's okay. But he wants to see that you've got it to the point where you heard the stall warner, and then we accelerated by reducing the angle of attack and giving some power. Now we're at 45. Let's do the slow flight now. We want to see a left turn, shallow left turn. Do it very shallow. And we try to maintain that speed and altitude. Originally, they wanted people to fly around like this with the stall warner going off, and they said that'd be a bad thing, is to teach people to fly around with the stall warner on. So they changed the rule a little bit now with this new safety alert. All right, let's give one back to the right. And shallow turn, try to keep the ball in the middle. I think if you do this, if he's not happy with this, then I don't know what else, you know. We're losing just a little bit of altitude. Give me another 100 RPM. A little bit more RPM. There you go. All right, so let's go ahead now and level out and let's go into a full stall. So bring the power to idle gently and let her stall and then recover. All the way back. There it is, recover, forward, full power in. All right, carburetor heat off. Got your airspeed back, establish a climb and bleed the flaps off. Very nice. That's all you gotta do. Now, I don't know whether he'll actually have you do a stall right from slow flight or if he'll ask you to recover from slow flight and then do a stall. We can do it either way.
Okay.
So if you recover from slow flight, you would just put the power in, turn carb heat off, get the nose down, get your airspeed up, and bleed the flaps off. It would just be everything you just did except you don't do the stall.
Okay.
Now, if you were going to do a stall without slow flight, let's go ahead and level out here, get back to 2500 level cruise, get the nose down to your level picture, right? You want to have it like about there. Get her trimmed for that. Yeah, you still got the nose up just a little high. All right, give me a left turn back to 270. Call this a clearing turn. After you do one maneuver, he says, okay, now I'd like to see a takeoff and departure stall. Volunteer, you'd like to do another clearing turn.
Okay.
If he says, no, I'm satisfied that the prior clearing turns were adequate, then that's fine. But,
okay.
You know, the assumption I would, and if he asks you why, you say, well, we've been flying around for a little while now, the area could have changed. I think it would be safer to take another look.
Okay.
That makes sense. If you always take the attitude of ultra safety, that's what he's going to want to hear. He wants to hear that you're a conscientious, which you are, you know, and you understand all this stuff. We just want to make good decisions. All right, so we're going to do a takeoff departure stall. So we bring carb heat in, we slow the plane down, and then when we get, you know, this time we'll do it in the clean configuration. And we get down to about 60 or so, and we bring the power in. It says you got to do it at least 65% power. Tell them that we've been using about 2,000 RPMs just so we don't have such a steep angle of pitch in the maneuver.
Okay.
And if he asks you to do more, then give him a little more. All right.
You said you wanted the clean configuration, right?
Clean configuration, yeah. All right. So just go ahead and put in power to about 2,000. A little bit more power, and let's pull the nose up till she stalls. Keep that right rudder in there. Should stall at an earlier speed than before. There it is, recover. Already got the power in, carb heat off. Very good, no burn, no worries, good job. Only lost a couple hundred feet. All right, now, the other thing in the book that's new, when we set up a glide for an emergency landing, we generally do it at about 60, right?
Yep.
And that's the best glide speed. What that means is that will get you the maximum amount of track across the ground for the amount of altitude you lose. It's the optimum glide profile. It is not the minimum sink speed, right? Which is different. It's not in the book.
Yeah, right.
So let's go ahead and put some carb heat on. And wait just a second or two, and then let's bring the power back to idle. We'll simulate an engine out. All right,
okay.
So let's go ahead and do that. All the way back to idle. Okay, first thing we do is trim for 60. Now, which way to wind blowing?
It's coming in from 2.6.
All right, so we look for a field to land in that direction somewhere. Let's pick a place where you think you could land.
Pick that field right there.
Yeah,
Got some houses
make
over
that
there.
one over there too, maybe.
Yeah.
You pick one. Let's start going for it. Let's try to maintain 60. And take a look at your sink rate. About 500 feet a minute. Now, let's pull the nose up a little bit, and let's go to about 55. And see if that lowers the sink rate a little bit. Maybe 100, maybe 150 feet per minute, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot. So that would probably be your minimum sink speed. But you're going to be going slower. As a result, you're not gaining as much track across the ground. Might even be a little slower than that.
Go try 50?
Yeah, let's see what it does at 50. As long as you understand the concept, that's what he's looking for. He's not, if you don't know the exact number, it doesn't matter. The point of it is, now that seems to be going a little faster now. Let's go back to 55.
That seems to be going just as fast or more.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that. Let's go back to 60. It may be that it's settled in now and you're actually going to have a higher sink rate. See, it's actually going down more at 60 now.
Okay.
All right, let's get out of here. Carb heat off. And let's climb back up to 2,000. I think if you can say to him, look, the 60 is the best glide speed, that means I'll get, in a no-wind condition, I'll get the maximum distance traveled across the ground. And if my goal is to get to an airport that's farther away than where I am, I want the maximum glide. If my goal is to stay aloft as long as I possibly can, then I want minimum sink.
And the instances where you'd want to do that is when you're trying to make contact with somebody, I guess, and you just don't want to get down below.
Yeah, that could be, or you know, maybe you're right over the field that you want to land at, and you just would rather have a little extra time to get yourself organized in the cockpit.
Okay, I got you.
Let's head back to Whiskey 42.
Take a look real quick, make sure nobody's
very
out there
good.
first.
Excellent. When we get to 2,000, we'll go level. I'm not so sure how valuable minimum sink is. The difference between optimum sink or optimum glide and minimum sink is not a whole lot in an airplane like this. It might be a bigger difference in a Baron
Okay.
or some heavier airplane.
Yeah, I kind of think of it as like VX versus VY, right? I mean, it's distance versus time.
Yeah, it's similar to that. Right?
Just the opposite, I guess.
I honestly doubt that he'll ask you to demonstrate it, but he may ask you in the oral to explain the difference.
Okay.
And you can say, look, we went out, we set it up for 60 knot optimum glide speed, and we were going down about 600 or 700 feet a minute. We pulled the nose up to about 55. We knocked maybe 100 off. When we pulled it up a little bit slower, then it started coming down even faster. So it's probably not a whole lot difference, but maybe 55 would be the best sink rate or minimum sink rate.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, there's an optimum speed that you would fly at depending on the wind too. If you're flying downwind to get to your landing site, the minimum sink rate would be better. If you're flying into the wind, believe it or not, a slightly higher airspeed's better.
Okay.
And part of the reason is because you're traveling across the ground at a much slower speed.
Yeah. So
If you slow down, you go even slower.
I gotcha. Yeah.
But that's a subtle point he won't ask you about.
It's a good point to know, though.
And this could be, I'll tell you when this is more relevant. When you lose the engine at 1,000 feet, the options are pretty limited.
Yeah.
If you're out there at 6,500 on a cross country and the engine quits, and now I've got some choices about, hey, I could make an airport that's 20 miles into the wind or 30 miles downwind. I might start thinking about the downwind might be better.
Yeah.
Particularly if the wind loft is higher. And if that were the case, I would slow it to 60 or 55. If I were trying to get into the wind, I might actually use 65.
Okay.
But you'd have to do a quick calculation that says, hey, according to the book, at glide speed, I can gain about 1.5 nautical miles per 1,000 feet. If I had to go 10 nautical miles, I better be at 6,000 feet.
Right.
And if I've got to get 20 and I'm at 6,000, then that's not going to make it. That's not a good choice. Is there anything else you feel like you need to go over? Because I'm comfortable. I feel we accomplished. We'll do a simulated engine out in Falston, but and if the wind's blowing a little bit down there, we'll do a couple of patterns just to get you some practice with the wind. But the rest of it, I feel pretty comfortable.
Okay, well, that's a good compliment. Thank you. I think we're just about over it now, actually.
Just remember to pay attention to your feet. And so when we're climbing out, use that little right rudder. He likes to see. You're very familiar with how to do slips. You know how to do that. You're very proficient at that. That'll be something he may want to see. You're coming in and land on a emergency landing and you're a little high, you put the flaps out and slip it in, he'll love it. He will love that.
Okay.
Because he sees that you've learned how to use the full capability of the airplane. There's so many people that never learn to do those skill sets.
Really?
It's a shame. It's kind of a throwback to the days of tail draggers like my Cub that doesn't have flaps. So people learn to do slips and things because that's what you had to do.
Gotcha, yeah.
All right, let's just simulate the engine out.
All right.
We're just about over Boston. We'll go ahead and say the engine's out and give them a call and tell them you're over 2,000 simulated engine out.
Boston traffic, Cessna 48753 is over the airfield, 2,000 feet, simulated engine out, Boston.
All right, let's get her slowed to our best glide speed. And if this were for real, once we got the airport made, mixture all the way out, deploy the flaps, master switch off, pop the doors. Obviously, I don't want you to do that for training purposes.
Sure.
But this is looking pretty good. Just remember that you got to fly a much tighter pattern than normal, as it comes out a lot faster when there's no power. You normally have 1,500 RPM in there.
Yeah, yep.
Let's get over to the right lobe, and I want to fly over Plainfield Road. I think we got enough to do that.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Nice job. Very nice job. Easy on the brakes there. You don't need to slam them on. We got plenty of runway left. If you were running to the point where we were about to run into a building or something, yeah.
Okay, yeah, good call.
For sure. That was a nice job. You'll just be a little careful at the very end there when you're coming in at the end. Just keep your speed up to 60 until you flare.
Gotcha, okay.
Just got a little, you were dead 55. And 55 is actually okay because that's a short field landing, right? And if you came in a controlled fashion at 55 and in a simulated engine out, I would be perfectly fine with that. Just got to be careful to not try to stretch it and get slower.
Right, right.
How was it, bumpy? Was it pretty rough there?
Yeah, it was a little bit, just a couple little bumps.
All right, let's do one more takeoff and landing. We'll do a maximum performance takeoff and we'll do a short field landing. And we'll call it a day. Really a pretty delightful day. I went out this morning with Bob Bailey and his Bonanza. It was chilly.
Oh, yeah?
Aloft, he had the air blowing. I'm in short sleeve shirt and shorts, and I'm freezing. I'm cold natured, so
yeah. All right, maximum performance. Landing. Fuel on, flaps to 10. Mixture full rich. Carb heat cold. Trim for takeoff.
we didn't really do a landing checklist back there, but we talked through it as an emergency. That would be more important to make sure that on short final we pull the mixture and get the flaps out and then master pop the doors.
Gotcha. Okay. Landing light, it just turned on. All right, so I'm gonna hold the brakes on. Full throttle.
All right. Also traffic 753 departing runway 22 false to close traffic. All right, we hold it on the runway till we get to 54, and then we rotate at 50 to 54, climb out at 54 till we're clear of the obstacle, and then accelerate to 65. 50. There's 54. It's pretty steep. Pull the nose up a little bit more. There you go. A little bumpy too, right? All right, there's 200 feet. You can start to accelerate to 65 now. Very nice. Got a little sink there. Did you feel that?
Yeah.
A little bit of wind shear. All right, we're clear of the obstacles. We've got a positive rate. So coming up.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was wondering why it looked like the trees were just holding steady. I was like, got it trimmed at the right speed. We should be lifting right now.
So what happened was you had a little bit of wind and then the wind stopped. So there was a slight little wind shear there briefly. And that's because of the turbulence down there. When the wind's blowing, it interferes with the trees and the earth and it creates turbulence, and sometimes that can cause a little wind shear.
I'm glad it was pretty short-lived. For a second I was thinking, maybe we're not going to make these trees.
Yeah.
False traffic, Cessna 753, turning left, crosswind, runway 22, false.
So after you go out and do just begin your cross country, he'll do some air work and then he'll have you divert to Ridgely, pretty likely. And you go over there and you'll land. And as you're taxiing back, before you take off, just pull out your takeoff briefing again. Just review that roll. Just take another quick look at that.
Okay.
We didn't do it here because we're just in Falston, but I doubt that you'll do more than a couple landings. You'll do that simulated engine out at Ridgely. He might get you to do a short field or a soft field. You'll have to do one when you come back into Bay Bridge. You might do one there. But you probably only do 2 or 3 takeoffs.
Okay. All right, landing checklist. Fuel is on. Flaps is required, off right now. Mixture full rich. RP on, which is out. Landing light is turned on. And master mags are on. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong one. Throttle is required.
Tell them you're on left downwind.
False traffic, Cessna 753 is left downwind, runway 22, false.
You know, if you want, you can do your normal flow and then just refer to the checklist and say, yep, I've accomplished all those things.
Okay, yep.
But 1 Victor is entering a downwind for landing Lee, runway 30.
All right.
Is that Folsom?
That was Lee.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Press the numbers.
So we want to turn final somewhere in the range of 55 to 60 and 55 on short final. Pull the power, touchdown, and easy on the brakes. We don't have to slam on, but normally you would apply the brakes firmly.
Did you say soft field then or?
Short field.
Short field. Okay.
Don't forget your radio call.
Traffic. They're turning left base, landing Lee, runway 30.
False traffic, Cessna 753 is left base, runway 22, false. Not a fan of this slow flight with these gusty conditions.
Yeah. Well, but just, you can hedge it a little bit.
False traffic, Cessna 753 is final, runway 22, false.
Just keep in mind, if you're trying to land short and you got a lot of wind, the wind's going to help you land short.
Yeah, that's true.
So you don't have to be quite as close to your minimum there. And, if you're coming in and it's gusty, you might say to him, look, for a short field, I normally use 54, but I'm going to add 5 knots for gust factor, and he'd be fine with that. Why don't you get your nose down a little, get a little slow. Yeah. See how she dropped out on you there?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That wasn't a textbook one, but... So what happened there, as we were coming down, the winds started to get slower.
Mm-hmm.
So for a brief time, you had a little bit of wind shear there where your airspeed went away. So you were correct in your observation that carrying a little extra speed in that kind of condition is a smart move. They talk about the gust factor. Have you ever heard that term? So if the winds are 15 gusting to 25, the gust is 10 more than the base.
Right.
So that's the gust factor. Use a third or half of that typically for the amount of extra
Okay.
that you add. So if you're coming in 15 gusting to 25 and you don't use 60, 65.
Okay.
Just gives you a little cushion. That way when you're coming down, if you do have a 5 knot or 10 knot loss of wind briefly while the airplane is reaccelerating into the new wind condition, you will lose airspeed. And in a big airplane, that can put them on the ground.
Gotcha.
Small airplanes, they recover from it. Yeah, we're
We're
done.
done. Okay. False traffic Cessna 753 is clear of the runway. False.
My experience is John doesn't want to fly when it's too windy.
Yeah.
So,
I don't blame him. I mean, you never know what you're going to get if you're examining somebody.
right.
I mean, hopefully you have somebody who has the...
I actually think it's a little better for the student because if it's gusty, the examiner's probably going to be a little more forgiving.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
good call.
But it depends on you. I mean, you handle the plane fine. You're certainly not going to go out at 15 gusting to 25. I
Yeah.
guarantee you that.
I hope not.
Maybe 10 gusting to 12 or 15, but probably no more than that. All right.
Look at my shutdown
Shutdown
checklist. Full stop. At about 1,000 before I turn off these mags.
Let's do the carb heat off first. Yep. Yeah, do this quickly. When you turn it off, go right back. Yeah, no,
Okay.
not that quickly. A little slow. Okay, that indicates that
It does kill the engine.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Full brakes 1800. All electrical equipment off.